everybody on YouTube, my name is Monoyasha from Dream Vision Creations, and today I want to show you step by step on how I created this life-size toothless head from DreamWorks How to Train Your Dragon. First, I started out with actually carving out on a big piece of 2 by 2 foot foam that I all glued together the basic shape for the toothless head. Here I used a cardboard piece to create an eye template and basically just started carving it out of foam using a box cutter and a pair of scissors in order to trim around it, and a black Sharpie marker in order to mark off distinct areas like the nostrils, mouth line, and the eye areas. As you can see, I only carved out half of the head, so I wasn't too worried about doing the second half, knowing that I was going to actually create one side and flip the pattern onto the left side of the head to create a completely symmetrical piece. Using these tools, a pair of scissors, box cutter, marker, duct tape, and cling wrap, I started to create my pattern. Using the cling wrap to put down the very first layer and then the duct tape in order to keep the pieces in place to create my final form of the pattern. Using the marker, I marked out my cut lines, very key areas on the head shape and form that they'll have points or curvatures in order to get the correct shape, essentially, for the separate pieces of the foam. Considering I'm using puzzle mat, it's about 3/4 of an inch thick, so it's a pretty thick material, and I knew I was going to have to make sure that those pieces could curve and connect together. As you can see here, I put little hash marks, little 2 to single hash marks, knowing where I need to actually connect the pieces together, since there'd be a lot of tension, especially in the curvature areas of the brow, the lip line, anywhere that's got a really circular kind of shape to it. And basically, before you actually want to start creating your pattern, especially before you start cutting it off of your original head form, take many pictures, all different sides, bottom, top, left, right, if you're doing a two-sided pattern, so that way you've got a point of reference anytime you run into complications. Here you can see all the separate pieces, again only for half of the head. So we have the bottom jaw, we have the side of the head, cheek area, brow, eye, and top of the head. Also a separate piece for the nose since it has such a major curve on it. Here I used 3 puzzle mat materials. You can usually buy them at Walmart or Home Depot, any hardware store. And essentially I traced all the patterns onto this piece of material, trying to utilize as much space as possible without sacrificing too much foam. Now the next step is actually going to start attaching pieces using barge cement, which is a 2-part adhesion glue. Hot glue for the smaller seams, box cutter again to cut out the foam, and I used a heat gun to shape the foam in the Dremel in order to smooth it out. This is my very rough attachment of all the pieces, using mostly barge cement in order to attach pieces together. And pretty much you can see it's pretty symmetrical left to right, but it does need some editing, and I haven't actually glued the nose part to this section yet. Still putting the pieces together. The bottom jaw has not been attached yet. The side panel still hasn't been attached yet. But you can see all my hash marks lining up properly on here, like the my pattern as well for the foam. I had to use my Dremel tool in order to do beveling to connect the pieces together, so you can actually connect them in different angles. Here you can see on the right side of the face, it's actually semi-glossy smooth. That's where I applied the heat gun on the inside and outside very lightly to actually create more of a curvature on that brow area. I have also opened up the eye port, cutting away more material, and again using more of the heat gun on the cheek, brow, nose area in order to get the curve nicely. This right here is a 7-inch globe. I actually bought this online from Amazon. It's usually used for pet carriers, so they have little vision ports. Also can be used for security devices in order to protect them from the weather and elements. I used this and cut it in half for the left and right eye. Here I started placing where I want the pupil to sit on the eye, and I also realized at this point that the brow was more angry looking, so I was going to have to go back over at the heat gun in order to shape it properly, so it didn't have such an angry look. Again, taking front and side shots, seeing how the eyes are going to look and their placement, at least for the pupils. using some painter's tape in order to mark this placement. Since it is an acrylic plastic, I don't want to get any kind of goo or gunk on it. And then here I finally figured out exactly how I want it to sit, and also taking the heat gun, I raised up the brow area, kind of tucked it, curved it more, giving Toothless more of a friendly look. I also pulled in a little bit on the lip area and the bottom jaw because it was actually drooping down too much. Here I started to put the very first layer, doing the pupils on the inside of the acrylic using acrylic paints. And these are all the layers of color I had to create for Toothless's eyes, going from the copper brown to the dark brown to the really bright green to the frosty green on the very far left to a medium green to a dark green using a fan brush. And here is my paint job. Took me 4 hours to do this. Lots of squiggle lines, essentially multiple layers of paint in order to create the depth and transition that Toothless's eyes have. Then I started working on the ears. So I basically started developing my pattern using just some regular construction paper. Essentially it's got 4 fins on each side of the head, so since I knew I was going to be flipping this over, it didn't have to do the other side. I basically traced this onto 1-inch foam and 2-inch foam, and then carved it out with a pair of scissors and box cutters. So this is the final look of the Toothless head. This was just supposed to be a base model for a customer that I decided to take on. The customer will be finishing the rest of the head on their own. So I'm very excited to see what they're going to create. Being that this is a 2 foot by 2 foot size head, it's almost life size, only slightly smaller than the dimensions for the actual show. And I just used regular hot glue in order to attach the foam fins onto the head itself. They were carved at a slight angle, as well as the fin attachment was also cut at an angle so they kind of perk up a bit more on the head and not laying completely flat. You can also see here that the foam head is actually completely hollow, so this thing only weighs maybe 8 pounds maximum, making it extremely lightweight and also a really good option for those who want to make a quad suit. You can see a little section was added. Okay. That was my first time doing a slideshow, so please, I apologize if it came out a little rough, but what I was going to finish off saying is there was a little divider right there in the back of the head in order to get the support from the upper to lower. Considering the sides are very wide, I didn't have to worry about too much about crushing power on the sides, more so on the upper top. But this is the Toothless head. As you can see, it's absolutely huge as comparison to my head. I'm really happy with how this project turned out. This is something I just took on randomly from a customer who randomly asked me. They were going to be making this really cute little rideable Toothless for their child, and they were really stuck on how to do the head shape, so I decided to do it, because I'm a big fan of Toothless myself, so being able to take on this character yet again was a challenge, but also I learned a lot from it. I've tried a lot of different techniques. It's only about the 4th time that I've done the Apollo Pod style foam work, and I gotta say that there's been a couple people online who've been really helpful with their prop tutorials, such as Punish Props. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty sturdy. Like, it would take quite a bit to crush it. And of course, using cushion foam, these are super fluffy and squishy, so I don't have to worry about any damage happening to them. The customer is going to be actually covering this all in rubber, so it should stick really, really well. And you can see a completely hollow cavity in there, with the support beam in the middle also being puzzle mat material. And there's his cute eyes! Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. Thank you. Bye.